Okay, well, welcome everyone to the higher education panel session of FDLA. Higher Ed Made Waves are calmer waters ahead. Our keynote kept asking, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Periodically in her presentation. And I don't think that question was ever answered. And perhaps we can shed a little bit more light on that. So I have with us here today, Willie Freeman and Josh Strigle. Melanie is not able, she has a conflict, so she's not able to, oh, she's here. Yes, welcome. Amazing, amazing. Okay, so the question that I have for our illustrious panel members here today is the theme of the FDLA 2022, now 2023 conference is navigating through the chaos to the new normal. Do you have a favorite song, poem, series, or movie that depicts this? And after mentioning that, feel free to introduce yourself to those here today. So let's start with Willie.
Hi, I'm Willie Freeman. I would say for me, the favorite song would be Time in a Bottle, because we speak very fondly of the before times and how things used to be. And if we could take the lessons we've learned in this period and blend it with the tranquility and peace we now perceive that we had in that period, I think we'll be much more equipped to deal with the future.
Time in a Bottle. Thank you, Willie. And where are you from?
I'm from Florida Atlantic University.
Okay, and your role there?
I am the Associate Executive Director of the Center for Online and Continuing Education.
And always there to offer words of wisdom. Thank you, Willie. Okay, let's go to Melanie.
Sure. Thanks, Amanda. My choice was the Michael Jackson classic, Man in the Mirror, just because I think sometimes we all need to take a look at ourselves and the change that we want to see in the world. So I love that song, but I also love a new one from the Newsboys. That's How You Change the World. And it's a song about how much we see in the world that needs to be changed and that we have to start somewhere. So, it says something like it's little things that we do when no one is watching, reaching out a hand in the dark to a heart that's hurting, and the smallest spark that can light the dark. So I do think, I think it was JFK that said everybody can change, and we all need to start somewhere. So our minor actions sometimes that we don't really realize just can cause a change in the world and a difference in people's lives. So I am very happy to be a part of the panel today. My name is Melanie Jackson. I serve as the Executive Director of Academic Services and Strategic Initiatives at Northwest Florida State College.
Thank you, Melanie. And Josh.
All right, so my song choice is a little bit of a chuckle, but there's a legitimate reason behind it, and it's more about the physical place that the song's associated with rather than the song. So I picked Stealing Banjos, and that's because I've had the opportunity to paddle, raft, and really navigate the Chattanooga River, border Georgia, South Carolina, up there in the lower Appalachian Mountains. You've gotten to do that a couple of times, and there are certainly ways, there are certainly obstacles. It's the biggest whitewater east of the Mississippi. Your protective equipment, your helmet, your life jacket is not just the show on that river. It's the real thing when it comes to whitewater. But when you get through that whitewater section of the river, you finish the trip for the day. You would come right off that last rapid into just a completely calm reservoir lake, and just have a nice, quiet, relaxing trip back to your takeout point. So that's kind of how I look at this. Hopefully we'll get off that last rapid soon and be on our way. And I'm Josh Strigle, and I'm the director for e-learning and learning support centers and our tutoring areas here at the college, which was a whole other set of waves during the pandemic, but glad to get to talk with you today.
Thank you, Josh. So we are going through tumultuous times, and I think the EDUCAUSE Horizon report by Pelletier and all reflects that. So these are the bullets. These are the points that they noted that organizations in higher education are experiencing right now. One, declines in funding, right? We heard that from our keynote. Enrollments are down. Rising political divisiveness. Scrutiny about the values of academic degrees, as well as social justice efforts. Rising demands for non-traditional or skill-based learning and the emerging modalities of learning and redefining those. The growing need for sustainability to protect the environment and adjust physical spaces. The expectations that we have for flexible work arrangement, that coincides with the great resignation that is occurring as many employees, staff, faculty, administrators are reflecting on what's fulfilling for them, reflecting about their careers and deciding whether they'll stay, they'll go, or anything in between, right? Cybersecurity concerns and privacy. All of these points are something that we are considering and working through and affect us in our day-to-day, although we might not be aware of it. So in this current climate, we're riding tumultuous waves, but virtual spaces offer a solution to shine the light on some of these points as a beacon, as a way forward. So my question, if you were on the beach and had a t-shirt that summarized what these times are like right now for digital learning enthusiasts like ourselves, and as well as those, your team members, what would that beach t-shirt say?
Amanda, I really want mine just to say, hang loose. Like, just hang on. As Josh said, we're in the canoe. We're going, I don't know if you're on a surfboard, a paddleboard. I don't know where you are. Hang on. Things always get better. I do find I've been in education quite a while, as many of us have. And what goes around comes around. And I do think things will get better. But realistically, I think one of my favorite slogans that we probably could put on a beach t-shirt is work hard, stay humble, and be kind.
Thank you. Words to live by. Thank you. Willie.
Amanda, you just put me in a very peaceful and serene place, so I had to change my background and reflect it. So I would honestly say keep the main thing, because all the challenges that we're going through, if we're still focused on giving our students the highest quality education we can, supporting our faculty to get there, et cetera, those goals haven't changed. It's just our journey has taken us into some rocky territory. And if we're wearing a t-shirt on the beach, that means unless we live on the beach, we had to park somewhere, we had to walk, we had to go across some hot sand, we had to lay out a blanket. There's always some things you have to do and deal with in getting your goals accomplished. And if you can remember that we did sign up for accomplishing these goals and making a difference in this way, I think the whole concept of the challenges we face, they're just challenges we face. And it's not to diminish them. We do acknowledge them, we do respond to them, but I don't think the train has jumped the rails to the degree that it feels like it has. I think everybody agrees that quality should be high, and I think everyone agrees that care should be given, and everyone agrees that the focus should be on quality academia. So keep the main thing, put your feet in the water, breathe, practice self-care.
Thank you. Josh.
Well, my teacher, since this is at least primarily a Florida audience, maybe completely Florida audience, maybe you're all familiar with the phrase, the stingray shuffle. So my cert would say do the stingray shuffle. That's, you're in the water and you walk in a shuffle instead of taking steps because you don't want to end up coming down on the stingray. So, we can see the waves at the beach, but we can't always see some of the stuff that's right underneath the surface. So I think we need to do the stingray shuffle for a while because, there's these political things coming at us, there's accreditation issues, there's some of those other things that it's a little harder to see what can sting us. And I think for a little while we're going to need to be vigilant of the things right underneath the surface.
So do the stingray shuffle. Is that?
Yep.
Oh. Yes. Kind of keep afloat and keep moving, right? So all of those words of wisdom make complete sense in the times that we're in. So what is the way forward? What is the most pressing area to focus on right now?
Amanda, I think in our field, especially, we have to stay current with innovations that are coming. Josh mentioned kind of how those might intersect with political landscapes or our administration or our field of higher education. But many of us are technologists and computer science folks at heart, and we must stay current on the technology that's coming out and how that impacts teaching and learning. I do think there are also studies being done and research being done by some wonderful people, and that we have to stay current in the research in our field as well. ChatGPT is an excellent example, which I know many of us around the state have been discussing. And I am thankful to live in a state where we're able to collaborate with each other. So I hope that we'll continue to be able to do that. And if you're not from Florida, that within your state, you're able to form a group of colleagues so that you can share best practices and information and help each other.
Yes, ChatGPT is a hot topic, and there's a lot of conversation around assessments, especially for academic integrity. Okay. I know too, you have been thinking about early alert systems for interventions, and wondered if you wanted to take a moment to elaborate on that.
Sure. I think that many of us are at institutions where we have students who are coming to school perhaps underprepared, or coming to post-secondary underprepared, and perhaps may not be in the correct classes for them. So we want to make sure our goal, I think, at every higher education institution is that students are successful academically, right? We want to see them succeed. We want to see them get out into the workforce in our communities and change not only their lives, but the lives of their family, and be great nurses and doctors and EMT and plumbers and welders and all those kind of fun things. So that definitely is something that we need to be cognizant of as we are thinking about our students. I apologize for my phone. And a way that we can quickly see who is falling behind is something like an early alert system. So this is not a new initiative. Certainly there have been products around for quite a while. Many of them are priced beyond what smaller institutions can afford. And so we've been exploring a couple of options. And so if you're interested in some of those, let me know. I'd be happy to share those with you. But I do think especially since the pandemic, our faculty are using the learning management system more often. And students are being asked to communicate there, whether that's discussion boards or you mentioned assessments. So they're completing assessments. They're at least signing into the system. So if we can pull some of that data from the learning management system and figure out who's not doing well, who hasn't responded in a while, who's behind on their work, and then immediately reach out to them, I think those are very helpful. I love the ones that also tie into some type of text messaging. I remember it was probably 15 years ago, and I have adult children and they're like, email is so old. Why do you guys keep emailing us? It's so old. They just want to be text, they're the TikTok social media generation for many of our students. And so they just want to know instantly how they're doing and what's going on. So that's their desire for communication. And so I think it does help as an institution when we're able to communicate with our students in the manner that they prefer, certainly. Yeah, and I'd be happy to take questions on that as well.
I do find it's interesting that having an early alert system in place and running and sending those text messages to students that's directly connected to having multiple varied assessments in the online learning space. So the two points that you're making, one relies on the other, and it's just imperative that we work with faculty to help them understand that students won't know how they're doing unless they do have assessments. So, and good ones, right? Okay. Any questions for Melanie about that? Let's go into the Great Resignation. Plenty of people are just reflecting on the state of things right now. What can we do about that? How can we help them on their journeys?
Yeah, Amanda, I pulled some stats recently. 68 million folks quit their job in 2021, and it continued at the rate in 2022 of about 4 million a month. That's a lot of folks. And I think through the research that I did, really I think we had kind of been going down that line. Many remember a time when for a business, an employee was a number, was a bottom line, right? We have these particular positions. Here's how much things are in the budget. If you don't want this job, that's fine. There's somebody behind you that will take it at the rate that we're willing to pay and be happy about it. So, but I think in 2020, as folks stayed home and figured out they could maybe make do with a little bit less and didn't have to have as much income coming in, they really reflected on what is important, right? Many of us did that. And it caused folks to say, you know what, I'm not happy. Like, I go to work every day and I want to do something that matters. I want to feel like I'm a part of something bigger than just me just coming and punching the clock and getting out. And so I think many people felt that. Also, many folks, I think, stay. We know probably our parents and grandparents, if you're my age, you went to work someplace and you stayed for your whole career, right? 40, 50 years, you stayed at one place. And many people today just don't do that. And I think it was fear of the unknown. Well, I would go work someplace else, or I would do something that maybe makes me a little happier, or, use those skills that I have and follow that particular passion. But what if, right? And so COVID was very scary and a little bit fearful, or made us a little bit fearful. And so now folks are like, well, all right, we came through that okay. It wasn't great. We had some losses and it was quite tragic. But I think I could do something different, right? It gave people a little bit of courage and fortitude. And so I think that's what we see. I do think prior to COVID, some of the research tells us that burnout of employees was at an all-time high. So it's been interesting in 21, the things that employers have done to try and attract workers, right? I know Chipotle, Starbucks, and Walmart are offering debt-free options for college. I think Target as well. Lots have increased their minimum wage. I heard Target the other day was going to increase their minimum wage to $24 an hour. And I believe 20 hours a week and over get benefits. So many companies are having to recruit. We know that costs money, right? In higher ed, we do studies on let's keep the students that we have, because it costs us more to go out and recruit and find new students than it does to keep the ones that we already have. The same is true in the workforce, right? So if we figure median salary of a U.S. worker is around $45,000, the cost of an employee turnover is $15,000. You add that among the all of us have vacancies, I believe, in our particular areas right now, and so we think about filling those, and sometimes it's been difficult. Especially where, do we have other things that we can offer? Because sometimes our budgets are what they are. So I know in one particular department that I supervise, we're looking at a reorganization, right? Can we take those 4 positions that we had, reorganize them into 3, but bring in some higher caliber talent and really still get the things done that need to be done, but perhaps do some different things with benefits. So employee engagement is also dropping. The stat I got on that was 32%. So I think, again, post-COVID, people are coming in and it's called quiet quitting, right? 5 p.m. I'm not going to check emails. I'm not going to check the Slack. I'm not going to check the text message. You had me from 7 to 5 or whatever it is. And so a lot of folks are working that way. I don't tend to work that way, but a lot of other folks are working that way because they're trying to, Willie said, we have to have a work-life balance, right? And we have to mentally help ourselves stay strong and take care of ourselves. So that is true. Oh, I love Vicki is putting in the chat, and she's 100% right. She says her instructional design students have jobs before they ever leave the program. That is so true. That's one field that is in high demand and being paid well. And I think especially in higher education, we're competing for a lot of our technology and instructional design positions against industry. Who can pay more? So sometimes that's an issue for us. I do think some of the cure is to allow folks more autonomy and more authority, that employees desire purpose and mastery and autonomy and motivation. And I do think that there are some wonderful individuals out there. Many of them are on our teams, and we just need to recognize them and help them see what their role is in really changing the lives of students and changing the landscape of our community. And I think they will respond.
Yeah, we recognize the amazing talent we have in our organization. So we're doing what we can to retain our wonderful colleagues. Josh, you had some thoughts about this as well.
Yeah, so just to add and build on some of the things that Melanie mentioned, you mentioned recruitment and, appreciating your employees, and recruitment is definitely an issue. And if this is going to affect our whole industry of distance learning, we do have this competition with industry, but especially as a smaller institution like mine and like Melanie, we've got this problem. We can't sometimes offer the same flexibility to our staff and our teams that industry can, because we also have this big group of people physically here on campus, and our team provides services to those individuals. We don't have so many true online students. We have students who take lots of distance learning courses. So, we've been looking at this at our college. How can we provide more flexibility? I know some institutions, and you can correct me, Amanda, but I think UCF has gone to kind of a hybrid work model for a lot of positions. I think I've heard that. So if at a smaller institution we only have one or maybe two individuals in a given role, that becomes a lot more difficult. But it still behooves us to look at those positions and see how do we not lose these individuals. I'm starting with a little bit afraid that we're going to end up in a higher ed brain drain for distance learning. You know, how we consider ourselves as, you know, a large group in higher ed. We're the thought leaders in this space, but we had in Florida, we had a higher ed leader, you know, who I know well, just recently leave to go to industry. And she said, well, you know, I've got a great position, all of that, but industry has recognized the value that and the contribution work from home employees can make. So why should I give an hour and a half of my life every single day to a commute when, you know, that's my morning jog, that's an activity in my afternoon, that's tangible things in my life I'm giving up in order to go sit in an office. And those kinds of factors, our institutions are going to have to factor those things in to whether it's in employee compensation, whether it's in work schedules, work rotations, and that's way above my pay grade, but it's something that I think all of us are going to have to start looking at. And how can we, even at lower levels, how can we do everything we can to make our teams have a little bit more flexibility in their lives so that we're attractive places to work and we don't start losing that talent.
Yes, I believe that your thoughts about providing more flexibility to those with if our institutions can do it, right? If our organization can do it, reflects Gabriella's point about acknowledging that quiet quitting isn't just people quitting, it's more an acknowledgement. It's reframed as an acknowledgement of balancing your life and work is okay. And so that is what we're trying to communicate. And I think that it's great to realize that for ourselves as well. Okay, so Josh, you've been researching regular and substantive interaction rules and what that means for our organizations and how we create and design our courses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I got a message from Willie that my mic's a little muffled, so I apologize that it's probably not something I'm going to get to fix mid-screen here, so we'll plow ahead. But yes, regular and substantive interaction, it's not a new concept, but it is something that has renewed focus. It's been around for a while. The really short version is that's one of the distinguishing factors between a telecourse or a correspondence course and an online course. It lets us charge financial aid for the student's tuition. And I don't have time to go into research, but it's all through the research that these types of interactions are key to student success in the classes. And COVID was really our time to shine as an industry, as distance learning professionals. It was, you know, our time to save the institution from having to cancel classes, have students who didn't complete, but it also brought a renewed focus on us. We've got the spotlight on us now from the regulators, from the political arena. Everyone's looking at distance learning now, and RSI is part of that. So I've really been focusing at my institution and had the opportunity to take this message nationally and have more invitations to do that coming up. But the factors in the rule, the behaviors that are described in the DOE's rule are teaching behaviors that benefit students and their behaviors we should have been encouraging our faculty in all along, and hopefully most of us have. The goal here, our mission with compliance in this area, is to frame what we've already been doing well in a way that we can present it in a compliant situation. It's not to retrain our faculty how to teach. It's not to bring a lot of extra oversight on them. It's really just to fine tune our interactions with students to help them succeed.
So it's really about just fine tuning interactions with students to help them succeed.
Yeah.
It seems like a spotlight, but it's really just doing what we have and focusing on our interactions.
Yeah, in the community college, I say community college, Florida college system, we still have that mission in the community. We really should have less work to do than anyone else. If we have a big problem in this area, it's a big problem. Think about any advertisement marketing campaign you've ever seen for community college. We spotlight our small class sizes, our direct access to faculty that you might not get at a large university. And so we kind of hung our hat in this interaction space for decades. So, we really should be most of the way there.
I see. So community colleges might have an easier time showing that they're meeting the RSI requirements than, say, bigger institutions because of the intentional interactions, the small class sizes, access to faculty members. That could be, yeah.
Amanda, I think also maybe some of the effort could be toward awareness, in that, like Josh said, it's not that there's something new we need to do, but I think there are some challenges in a lot of faculty are natural teachers. So they're already doing these wonderful things, but when you're a natural at something, you don't think to label it, to apply it to a metric. You don't think to tout it. So there's times where these things are happening. It may really help for us to kind of, since the spotlight's there, to say, Dr. Jones, she's done a wonderful job in X, Y, and Z. Let's highlight that and let people know this is what we mean by regular and substantive interaction. And here's an example here. Instead of it being, all right, let's go back and change what everyone's doing. People are doing wonderful jobs. What if we simply actually highlight and celebrate the interaction that is actually already there?
Yeah, that's well taken, Willie. That we do have champions who are doing an excellent job with interacting with students, bringing them in. I'm curious too, if you think the modality has anything to do with that.
It does. Go ahead, Willie.
No, go ahead, Josh. You go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So the modality is it's all wrapped up in that. I think if we're not intentional, having a kind of dispersed form of instruction like online is, it may tend to separate the faculty the same way students can feel like they're on an island. Faculty can as well, because they're not having the same interactions with their peers unless we're intentional about it. So, you have that side of it. But even when you drill down into the regulations, some of those interactions that count, and I'm not trying to discount interactions that don't count, those can still be excellent, but the ones that are measurable towards compliance, some of them would only apply to a live online course. Some of them would only apply to an asynchronous online course. So, when you say that word modality, that's a key one. It's from a lot of different angles. It really does matter what modality we're calling e-learning or distance learning.
That's so true. Josh read my mind entirely. I agree with everything he said and then some. And I think when those modalities are not treated as something that is a hindrance or scary, but actually celebrated in themselves, that there are students where if we're reaching out to families of military, they are learners that are enrolled in online classes that can't be in the same place at the same time for 4 months every week of that month, 16 weeks. They're not even in the same time zone that many times. First responders that have a 30 days on, 30 days off shift. The first month of your class, maybe they can be there, but after that they can't. So the asynchronous, there's a lot of benefits of interaction in an asynchronous environment that would help them. Whereas if it's a synchronous online class where it's online, but we meet in Zoom every Wednesday at 8 p.m., there's a different type of interaction that goes on there. And the more we are aware of those and share those with each other, with our faculty, with colleagues, and solutions we came up with for those, I think the better our students benefit from it.
I'm wondering if you've had success with the right mix of modalities at your institution. Is there a right way to move forward with, or should we embrace all the different modalities, live, asynchronous, bichronous, high flex?
It's funny when you say all. I've seen some universities say here are all the modalities available and they list about 4. And I've seen other universities and colleges say here's all the modalities available and they list 16. And so the all is a little fluid. But yeah, so I think honestly, it's about your students and what students are you targeting and what is it that they need so that you can meet them where they are. In situations where you're reaching out to students that, I don't know, maybe you're 17, 18 years old, just got out of high school and are ready for that college experience, then face-to-face is the way to go. But if you're looking at a student who maybe 24, 25, and they are looking to go out and get a degree so they can go into the workforce, but they actually have a job because they can't do the loans or they need to pay for school, they may need a hybrid. I can make it to school on these days because these classes were offered at a time that works for me, but my boss says I have to be at work at these times. So they need that blend of both. If we really get to know our student body and their needs and the students we're targeting and their needs, I think we would cater the modalities to meet our charge, the people we're trying to reach.
And
Yeah.
Amanda, sorry, I was just going to add, I have to really thank and congratulate our faculty. Our faculty, I think overall have been so flexible. And as Willie said, they've said, what's best for the students? I'll do it right. I don't know this technology, but I'm going to learn it. And, so as support, academic support folks, we've gotten people in the classroom to help with that transition and the training of faculty, but faculty have just really stepped up to the plate, especially since COVID, March 13th, right? We'll never forget it, 2020. They have just done a phenomenal job of stepping up and saying, what do I need to do? How do I need to change? And as Josh said, there's some documentation. Maybe there are some specific instructional strategies, right, that they can employ to help students. But just want to give a shout out to the higher ed faculty.
Yeah, we did see a lot of compassion and care and our faculty going above and beyond, as well as instructional designers stepping up to the plate. Yeah, I hope that in the keynote, we are seeing some target audience, our target student populations leaving higher education. So my question is, what can we do for those students who are underserved? How can we reach all students, regardless of their background, their accessibility needs, their life situations?
I hope what we are doing is encouraging them from the first time we talk with them to pursue an academic program that is of interest to them. Right. And so that looks different in lots of different ways. If you've got a college success course, or you are just putting them on the Florida Shines website and having them do a little career inventory type thing. But I think, again, post-COVID, even our younger students want to find a career in which they can make a difference. They want to do something that they enjoy. And I can't remember who said it, but if we find a job that we like to do, we will never work a day in our life, right? That's what I hope for all of our students as well. And to let them know, worked with a student recently who was just like, they're a junior and they have 80 something credits, but they don't enjoy the field. Once they got into the clinicals and getting out into the workforce, they're like, I don't really like this. I said, then stop. Don't go down the path. Don't waste your time and don't waste your money. Let's pivot. Let's look at all the other things that we can do. And so we were able to get that student in a program, and they really are just loving it now. And it's really made a difference for them. So I hope that as institutions, we are, or as early as possible, trying to point students in the right direction, and then letting them know there's forgiveness, right? There's change. Average college student still changes their major, I don't know, 6 times. So it's okay to change your major, but find something that you enjoy doing.
And Willie, I know you have some thoughts about serving students.
Yeah, I love what Melanie said too. That just, I don't know, those things really speak to me in my heart. On our campus, for example, I walked past one of our police officers and we got into a conversation, and she said, you know, I'm thinking about going back to school to finish my bachelor's. I only have about, I think she said like 20 to 30 odd hours left in it, but her children are moving into junior high school now. And she said, they don't think they can go to college. They don't think they belong in college. I want to go back and finish my degree to show them that if mama can do it, they can do it. But I can't stop working to do it because I have to feed my babies. These two have to actually eat and live and get their books and etc. So we started talking about options for that. And when we're looking at how can we reach everyone, if we can remember that public education was originally intended to help level the playing field so that higher ed wasn't just relegated to the wealthy and the elite, then we can remember that when we're looking at how to reach people, the focus of it is the people more so than the process, the people more so than the positions. And when we say, well, I'm sorry if you can't show up at this time for this thing, then you can't come, we're losing a little sight of the goal for how we serve Florida citizens. And so I think that one of the ways we can reach them is to make sure when we're developing our courses and we're supporting our faculty and we're talking to our administrations, if we can keep in mind that the student is kind of at the forefront of the conversation, it helps everybody get back on the same page of what we're here to do. And I think that actually can, even in what is being perceived as a turbulent time for COVID and other reasons, there are things everyone can agree on. We all agree that Florida is healthier when it has a healthy tax base. We can all agree that the more Floridians that are employed and gainfully employed, the better off the services in Florida are. And then we can agree that as human beings, we are able to change our minds. And what ends up happening is, if we let people do exactly what Melanie and Amanda we've talked about before, if they get into a particular degree field or they get into a job and decide they need change, we want to be there with open arms to say, you're ready to learn something new. If you're ready to learn, we're ready to teach. And just keeping that objective first, I just feel really passionate about that. Just remember why we're here in the first place. And a lot of allies will suddenly come into focus of what we're trying to do. So I think that's a big way to reach them.
Can I jump in, Amanda, and just add a quick thought? I think in my mind, oversimplifying things sometimes. I think it boils down to just keeping doing what we do best. I mean, we as, at the institution, we're probably situated in the best position to provide people with access to education and to bring people into the institution that would not be here. We're in positions to advocate for OER. We're in positions to work with faculty so that hopefully they don't adopt a technology that's going to cost each student hundreds of dollars or require the absolute highest bandwidth to access it. We're in a great place to work on this, and to kind of set you up with a segue for our next conversation, so that faculty adopt accessible technologies to everyone and those sorts of things. I think if we just continue to do what we do best and continue to do the things that we added onto our repertoire during the pandemic, if we can hold on to those additional things that we added, I think we're going to be in a great place.
Yes, that really resonates with me, Josh, because we are in a position to reach students, to offer them low cost, no cost materials through our work with faculty. And then as faculty, they have that, working with your instructional designer to do great work and incorporate digital learning tools that are engaging for students and redesign assignments and look at objectives and really design it with the student in mind. Okay, so Melanie, I wanted to give you space and time if you had last thoughts about serving students, and then move on to any questions we might have.
Sure, thanks. I want to actually put in the chat. Many of us probably are familiar with Universal Design Guidelines, UDL. And so if you have time to visit that page, I don't know that we have time to pull it up today, but I really do think that Universal Design for Learning is a way that faculty can help take their content and make it appealing to a variety of students. Many of us have done research and know that everyone learns in a different way. And so not that we have to gamify every course, although I would really love that. But at least if we can share with our learners a variety of ways in which they can learn. And this is a really great website that goes through how we can provide information. And actually there was a workshop yesterday that talked about the 3 brain interrelated networks of the why of learning, the what of learning, and the how of learning. And I think UDL addresses all of those. So I know that many of us encourage our faculty to use those. And I think the more we talk about them, but then explain what it is, sometimes, especially in higher education, we use all these acronyms and folks are like, what? I now go back because I don't know what you're saying. So I think we need to share that with faculty and
Yeah,
explain
definitely
what it is and how it can help students. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely, and some of us have research in this area, and we're moving forward, cutting edge ideas on accessibility and open educational resources and assessments, and designing courses in a way that engages students. So let me just pause for a moment for any comments or questions.
And I think I would just echo back and circle back to something that Willie said in the very beginning, which is students first. We're all here for our students, and begin with the end in mind.
Okay. Well, I see no questions. So I have 2 quotes for each of you, Willie, Melanie, and Josh. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today, but I'd like to get your reactions in closing to these 2 quotes. The task ahead of us is never as great as the power behind us. And that's by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And the secret of change is to focus all of your energy, not on fighting the old, but building the new, by Socrates. So, Melanie.
I will start with the maybe the last one first. Josh alluded to earlier some, that we all work in higher education, and sometimes our goal is, again, to help students academically succeed. That's, I think, at the heart of what we all are here for and want to do. But we navigate that landscape, as Josh said, in our canoe, on our surfboard, our paddleboard, whatever our means of floating down the river every day when we come in. And so sometimes there are boulders in the creek that we are going down. Sometimes there are what did we call it? The shuffle.
Stingray shuffle.
Thank you. There are stingrays that we can't necessarily see. And so we've got to shuffle and just kind of move along real gently and see. And so thinking the last one, the secret to change is focus your energy, not on really fighting the old, but on building the new. So something came recently and I said to a colleague, okay, we got to pivot a little bit. This is important. But I'm not sure we can go down this path. So help me. And she just very easily and was very professional and very kind. And I honestly thought I was going to get some pushback and the person was going to be upset. And she said, listen, I've been in higher education quite a while, and I have just learned, it doesn't do any good to fuss with people and fight with people. Let's just figure out where we are, how we can move on, how can we make where we're headed wonderful and great and the best that it can be. And I just thought that was so wonderful. I just feel so blessed to work with colleagues like that, we can fuss and we can stomp our feet and throw a little tantrum or whatever we want to do, but it's not going to help us. It's not going to help our students. So I think the best thing that we can do is collaborate with others and find a professional group that you can network with and determine what we can do to move forward in the best path possible. Absolutely.
Yes, it always helps to have set goals and do them in numbers. Okay, maybe Willie?
I'm going to follow Melanie's example and use the second quote first because I don't know, it seems to work better for me as well. I think in life in general, it applies to higher ed as well, but in everything, if we take all the energy that we pour into trying to stop things that we perceive as opponents or adversaries and pour that amount of energy in addendum to the energy we put into trying to accomplish what we're here to accomplish, we would get so much farther. A lot of the fighting the old, a lot of times it's, I have a new idea. I think that we should, like the Chat GPT, we've got to deal with Chat GPT. And a lot of people unintentionally fell into two markets. There's a group of people who are like, how do we keep this out of higher ed? How do we protect ourselves from it? And then there's a group that says, wait, how do we embrace this? And how do we use this? And those are two completely different approaches. And the approach of how do we fight something and how do we stop a thing from happening, I've yet to see through history that ever actually work. And when you look at how do we embrace the new, these things are coming. We don't want higher ed to become a bubble that's separated from the rest of reality. So whatever the new is, the reason it's creeping into higher ed is that it is throughout the rest of the world as well. And yes, Melanie sums it up perfectly in the chat. Embrace the innovation and use it to improve student learning. I love that, Melanie. Absolutely. And the second, technically the first quote, the task ahead of is never as great as the power behind us. We are all here together from all over the state and some of them throughout the country to work together for one goal. And when you get people together to achieve a goal, it doesn't matter how big the goal is, if the people don't give up, and if they stay focused on what the objective is. There's an old saying that, like, in, I don't know if it's like 1962, Kennedy went to visit NASA, and that he was walking through the halls and he's talking to everybody and asking them what they do there. And that a janitor came through with a broom and he said, "What do you do here, sir?" And he says, "I'm helping put a man on the moon." Because everybody there understood they had one goal. And everybody had a part in it. And that plays a role in our embracing innovation. It plays a role in perpetuating the mission of higher ed. It plays a role even in how we retain our instructional designers. It plays a role in how we get if we all remember what we're here for and what we're trying to do. If you have IDs who come to you and say, "Hey, there's a job out there that's paying more and I can sit at home every day," et cetera, start sharing with them the stats of how many successful students went through a course they built.
Thank you,
When people
Willie.
can see it, it just works.
It does. It does. And Josh, you get the last words.
All right. Well, I don't know if I'm going against the grain or not, because I'm actually doing in the order that we gave them to it. So the power behind I think the power behind it is our collective societal and just human desire to learn. All through history, we've had a desire to learn. And I hear some people say, well, we're accredited. Or others say, I've heard from time to time, especially from faculty, well, we're the academy, going back to the Greeks. And all of that exists because people want to learn. So I think our biggest obstacle, and unfortunately there's some perception in our modern society, is that we're just all about credentials. And if we become all about credentials and forget the learning, students are going to go learn from YouTube or learn from Amazon or Microsoft or wherever. And so if we can just remember the power that's behind us is the desire for learning, maybe it's the employer's value they place on the learning of their employees or whatever, but it's all about learning.
Mm-hmm.
And then, fighting the old and building the new. The only thing I really have to add there is that old is relative. When I started in the field in the late 90s, the old we were fighting was faculty who did not want to put anything online. So, they didn't want to transition their slides that they dropped into the carousel on the digital files they could put in PowerPoint. That was back then, that was the old. So pretty much all of that's gone. COVID hastened getting that there. And so maybe the old now is those who don't want to embrace AI, like Melanie and Willie were talking about with the ChatGPT AI. So we just need to keep in mind that's relative. The new is just coming at us 100 miles an hour, and it's just going to get faster in the years to come.
Yes, so we're embracing the new. Thank you, Josh. And it's always good to be reminded about our passion for learning. Okay, well, thank you, everyone who joined our session today. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Melanie, Josh, Willie, for sharing your words of wisdom with us in these tumultuous times that have a bright outlook, because it's better this time, this space is better because we are in it and we're bringing our passion and our knowledge to it. All right. Thank you so much.
Well said, Amanda. Such an amazingly curated session, and kudos. Just absolutely wonderful conversation.
Thank you.